my life, I've been surrounded by stories. It started when I was little. My mom, she would sit in the hallway reading books to us aloud as kids. We were snuggled in our beds as we were drooling over the descriptions of food and feasts described in Redwall books. Prayed that one day we too might receive our very own letters from Hogwarts, or find out that maybe, just maybe, one of our parents was, in fact, a Greek god from mythology, and we were tasked with a world-saving quest. History lessons involved historical fiction novels, and every Friday we would pick a meal to make from that country and time period. Worlds, cultures, stories. I couldn't get enough. And I'm sure it was this foundational love of story that led me to have very, very vivid dreams. And I'll tell you, there was never one like the one I had when I was 10 years old. At that time, I had my best friend over for a sleepover, and we claimed the basement, much to the chagrin of my 6 other siblings, and pulled out the pull-out couch, threw up a pop-up tent, and settled in for a night of shenanigans. Now, I will say there's not much about that night that I do remember, but I can tell you that that night my life changed forever. Because in the middle of the night, I woke up with the bones of a world and characters and stories that just had to be written down. And so I scrambled through the house at 3 a.m. trying to find a pen and a notebook, and by the time my friend woke up, I had the first 3 chapters written. Over the next several years, that book became who I was. It was my personality, as they say. And those first 10 pages ended up being my college entrance essay into a creative writing program. And I went on to study story in all of its forms and fashions. And so I immersed myself in other people's stories, even after college, while conveniently avoiding my own. Yeah, I can tell you, after spending the last several months with all of these amazing women, that I wasn't the only one who wasn't paying enough attention to her own story. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? We all know that. And so I was convinced that I was always at the beginning, trying to figure out what the heck my ending was. That's how stories are written, right? In order to begin, you have to know the ending. I stand here before you today and laugh at that thought, because it's very logical, it's very planned, it's very businesslike. What's the end goal? What's the outcome we want to achieve? As somebody who's helping build a business, those questions cross my mind daily, hourly, in fact. And while there are a lot of good things that I can take from my work life and apply to my home life, I started to treat my entire life like it was a Gantt chart and an Asana board. Resonate with anybody? Yeah. And so I had to stop and ask myself, are we really writing our own story? Or are we just making the next best decisions as we live out our lives? And if that's the case, let's imagine for a few seconds longer. What if we had the ability to make our stories whatever we wanted them to be? Novel concept, right? Maybe a little more adventurous, a little more romantic, maybe even a little more slow. I wanted that. And so that got me thinking, well, then maybe the ending isn't really all that important after all. In fact, maybe every sentence is a new beginning. And isn't that what keeps life interesting and exciting? I mean, think about it. That way we're always creating, We're always evolving. I don't know about you, but I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, a year ago, yesterday. Heck, I'm standing on this stage in front of you guys. I wouldn't have been doing that yesterday, right? I have had so many experiences that have brought me to where I am, who have made me who I have become. And the journey that I'm on has so many more experiences for me to live to make me who I'll be tomorrow. And so now I am learning still to enjoy every new beginning and not be so focused on that ending. Because the reality is, the time between right now and that ending, it's my life. And so when the people who have been the characters in my story gather around to tell it, I'd like it to be a memorable one.